to the Spooky Chris podcast. I am the aforementioned Spooky Chris, the spookiest Chris I know. This is my little slice of doom. If you would like to know more about me, my name is Chris Ringler. You can go to my website, spookychris.com, and all of my blogs, my podcasts, my links to all my books, and links to my short films and my little short film experiments are all there for you to peruse. I thought this time around I would talk about the newest iteration of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the idea in general of horror kind of sequel, requels, reboots, and all that. I've talked about this before a lot on the other podcast I am a part of, the Ghoulcast, as well as blogging about it, and I'm sure mentioning it in one of a million reviews. To get it out of the way, I did not like the remake. No, it's not a remake. The newest entry into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. It was funny because I was talking to a friend back and forth in a text exchange, and they're like, "Oh, it looks really good," and yes, it does. It really does look good. Though, I mean, honestly, if you're making any kind of a studio film with any manner of limited budget, it should. If you have access to director of photographies and sound people and all that stuff, it should look good. Professional actors and all that. Because being that, if I had just a bag of money fall from the sky, I could go and buy a nice enough camera that it should look real good. So it looked good. It looks slick. It looked, I appreciate in all of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, I appreciate that. And it's funny because I have not seen all of them. I skipped 4. I skipped the one before this one with Leatherface as a kid. It's weird. This is a series where I kind of pop in and out of. Saw Texas Chainsaw 3D was just not good, and I did not enjoy it. I shouldn't say it's not good as like it's like a value judgment. I did not like it. And this one, it's interesting that it kind of it's interesting in that it takes a few kind of notes from the newest Halloween iterations, in that it kind of decided the first movie is Law, we're going to stick to that, and we are a sequel to that, and kind of following it up that way. I get it. I mean, it makes sense because that's of all that series, that's the most beloved entry. For me, I like the first 3. 2 is great. It's just it was the perfect. It was almost the only way he could have followed it up, because Tobe Hooper really didn't. I don't think he had, kind of like Carpenter, he didn't have an interest in continuing to do movies about these people. So it was kind of the only way to do it was kind of turn it on its head, and he did a great job. Where he didn't kind of make it a ridiculous, so that it kind of ruins your love of the original, and I guess Romero kind of did similar to Dawn of the Dead, even kind of amping it up and lampooning things, where in the first one it was just very, very dark and serious. And I like the third one because it's kind of a mix of the first 2. It's goofy, but it is gnarly, and it's very self-contained. It was just a fun movie. It's definitely the least of those 3, but I liked them, and I like the 2 remakes. I think they got it, and that's kind of the big thing for me, is whether or not folks making these kind of quote unquote get it. And that's not to say that there's one way to interpret these movies, and that these filmmakers are doing a disservice to the fans and blah 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 blah. So no, it's just, for me, the remake and prequel to that remake, quote unquote, like I said, got it. For Leatherface, for that character, family is, that's the core. Like, in my opinion, the way you got to do these. is to kind of know the heart of that movie. What is the heart? What is the heart of that character in that movie? For Jason, it's the camp. Now there's a million ways you can go about it, but it's got to be the camp. You can't take him like it was a novelty and it was fun to take him to New York, but it did still start sort of at the camp, around the camp. But I mean, that's his shtick. That's his thing. With Freddy, it has to be dreams. You can't just have him. Oh, Freddy's real now, and he's in the real world, and it's a whole. You try to, not a start from zero when he's a human before he becomes Freddy, but like, no, Freddy's reborn as a human, and he's going around, and it's no, he works in dreams. You know, Ghostface is interesting because it's funny. Ghostface is interesting. I mean, this is not having seen the newest one. With COVID, we are still not really heading out a lot. I get it. COVID's everybody's kind of over it and stuff, but we are still trying to be as careful as we can. So I have not seen it. I want to rent it when we get a chance. But with Ghostface, it's interesting because the continuity is with the character, despite the fact that many people have played that, portrayed that villain, and that the core of it is kind of the idea of someone that has secrets and someone that knows more than the target, and kind of an appreciation and love of pop culture and film is part of that character. And like I say, Leatherface is family. That's why the remake and prequel worked, is because they built this really great family for Leatherface to kind of be around, and Leatherface is kind of works best when he's kind of lurking in the background, and then kind of like Jaws emerges to like shock, like attack, gone. Making him an in the front the whole time villain, and it works the same way with Jason generally. Is those characters, because they're silent, because you don't know a lot of you can actually get a little more from Leatherface than say Jason. They don't portray a lot, but again, like I say, Chainsaw 2 shows a lot more emotion from Leatherface. But it's hard to carry a movie when it's just, I mean, they are sharks. They attack and retreat, attack, retreat kind of thing. Freddy can kind of be more out front because he has a personality. And Michael Myers is the same thing. I actually like the Rob Zombie ones because he gave him kind of such a, like, it was the embodiment of death almost. Like or maybe better, an embodiment of a shark, to get to sharks again, as it was just, except it was a frenzied like attack. But again, like if you took Michael out of Halloween, it doesn't work as well. Like that is kind of his thing, and it's more, these films usually work better when they are. And I'm talking with these are all the slashers, in more of a restricted space, and in close quarters. So I mean, you can redo these. I mean, I think the Dawn of the Dead remake was fantastic. It was a great way to do it. Do I like Fast Zombies? No, but it was a great way to do it because it took the core of the idea and did something different with it. Now, he scrubbed the social commentary away from it, which is a drag, and I think honestly is a real knock on it, because that is another like tenet of that film. But he like took it down to studs and just hit it from there. But I think you can kind of see what he intended with Dawn of the Dead, and I think, and again, I think it works. It's different, but it works. Evil Dead is more successful in that it knew exactly what Evil Dead was, and it turned it to 12. And it is an acquired taste. It is not a movie for everyone. But if you are a fan of the original, man alive, that is just a mean little movie, and it's a great, like modern adaptation. And you know, and you get to the classics like The Thing and The Blob and The Fly and stuff, and they work. And why? So all of these work because they knew what those movies were. The Thing, the story, and the original movie itself are about paranoia and about the fear of the other and the fear of losing oneself to a foreign host or body, as it were. And there's a lot of kind of stuff back then like that with the idea of communism and all that, blah, blah, blah. But that's where that works. With The Fly, it's the idea of science going further than it should. That just because you can doesn't mean you should do something. And the remake got that. So it's, that's the big part is you have to understand why the original works, and then you play in that playground. You kind of, it's like, okay, this is what this is. Like, you don't make a Halloween movie that's set in summer, like, and I say this with the asterisk that someone that has a great idea could make anything work. So anything could work technically, but you would have to have a great idea, and that's putting a lot more work on you than is necessary when you have kind of the template, and these are movies that work with templates. So like I enjoy the Poltergeist remake, but the heart of the original was the family, and the family in the remake don't gel as well. It doesn't feel as naturally like a family. The original film, and it worked so well because that feels like they are a family. They feel like everybody did such a great job if they feel like family. So to me, that was the big problem, is that you didn't really buy that as a family. So any kind of peril they're in doesn't feel as dangerous. And part of it too is there was a sense of wonder with the original. That bled into horror. Like, oh, look, it's a ghost, and then it reminds me like the scene where it's like all of these ghosts kind of spinning around. It's pretty, and they're there, and then like they kind of reveal what it is, and it comes into your face. And it's like, oh no, it's not. That's not anything great. Or when the guy kind of pulls his face off, is that all of this seems fun and games until you kind of look closer and you see how dangerous it is. And that's why that original worked. And again, so you can remake and everything. Anything can be remade. I don't like the remake of, or this new iteration of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because they don't get the idea of Leatherface being a part of a family. He doesn't work as well on his own. Again, you could make it so he does. Like, if you made him desperate, and they tried. I will say that they tried, is they give him a mother figure in this, but and it sucks because it was Alice Krige, who's a really good actress, and they gave her so little to do, and they got rid of her so quickly. I think had they kept her in the movie and done more with her regarding Leatherface, I think it would have made for a stronger movie. They kind of, and it's funny because they try to like a red herring, like trying like, oh, is that him? Is that, no, it can't be. Oh, but is it him? When they reveal him, and it just got in the way. Frankly, it was kind of just a pain in the neck. But that's, the big thing, and this posits that he was an orphan, and in the end. In this version, he is living with this woman at an old orphanage when these kind of hipsters come to town, and they purchased most of this small town. But there's no explanation of why he's there, because Leatherface had a family. He was a Sawyer. He has a family. So you need to kind of say like, oh, well, all of them are dead. And again, if you're linking it to the second one, then okay. But they needed to do that. It's not even heavy lifting, but that lifting. and say, yeah, that his family is dead. He had nowhere to go, and he went back to this woman who was still there and cared for him when he was a little boy, and he had been adopted and blah blah blah. And, like, that could work. There's a story there. There's a story to be had. I mean, to me, maybe this connects to the one they just did a few years ago with Leatherface as a little boy. I don't know, because I know he was, I think, an orphan or something in that. But you have to. I mean, it stinks, but you have to say it. You don't have to, like, in the Batman movies or Spider-Man movies. Yeah, you don't have to show the background, but, like, you may have to mention an aspect of it to remind people who are new to the franchise or who don't remember. Like, people, it's funny, they get tired, like, oh, I don't want to see the Batman origin again. I don't want to see the Spider-Man origin. And I understand it, because I've seen all of these movies and I've seen that tale a lot. But people forget that movies are not for just this moment. They are for, ideally, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, and on and on and on. So, and they're for people that have never seen them before. So you do have to reference, if you have Batman, you have to reference, like, the fact that his parents are dead. You don't have to go, you don't have to show it all and blah, blah, blah. But you should reference it. And that's all. It's a line or two. And if people roll their eyes, then let them. But they're forgetting, once more, that there's people in the audience that are, this is their first, Batman movie, their first Spider-Man movie. They haven't been watching them like some of us have. And with Leatherface, again, they just needed to tie that to something, because it didn't make any sense. And again, without a family, he's not as engaging a character, because he is more vivid when, like, it's weird, because he is. I'm trying to think the type of, there's types of foods that, I guess, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of it. Tofu maybe, or something, but where it's kind of a bland, kind of nothing taste, but it takes on the flavor of that which it's with, and it enhances it. And that's kind of what Leatherface is the family kind of, his motivations are tied to the family, and they give him that. I will offer this, that they give him that in this one, but it doesn't resonate. And people will get a kick out of this one, because it's literally him with a chainsaw massacre, just chainsawing people. But it's so desperate to be, like, hip and cool, and, like, taking down, like, stuff, because there's a whole stupid scene about woke culture, and it's not. I mean, it's nothing deeper than just a of the moment kind of thing, like, haha. But it's stupid. There's a really, to me, the two biggest sins in this film are, there's a legacy character they bring back, the survivor girl from the first one, and I forget her name, Hardesty or something, but I forget her, like, her last name. Man, I forget her name, but they bring that character back, and they waste her. Like, it's interesting kind of what they did with her. They kind of tried to make her into a Laurie Strode, where her experience with Leatherface hardened her into something, like, something dangerous. And her confrontation with him is interesting, but the resolution is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It spits in the face of the fan, almost, because it's just like, haha, like, F the past, F this, like, that's how dangerous Leatherface is, yeah. And it's like, it reeks of the same thing, like, where Alien 3 didn't want to deal with Newt and, oh my gosh, my poor little memory. Oh man, I'm forgetting his name. They're two characters that, survived with Ripley in Aliens, and they didn't know how to deal with him. So they killed them off screen, in their pods. And it's heartbreaking, but it was just, he didn't want to deal with those characters, so they just killed them off. And it's that same kind of a thing, is that it's just kind of like, I don't want, I brought it up, but I don't want to deal with it anymore. Like, I'm good. And I get the idea too, is it's kind of a misdirect, like, oh, is this the new? No, it's just, I don't know. It didn't work for me at all. Worse though, like I say, is there is a character that is, her backstory is not given nearly enough kind of like it doesn't fill it out enough, and it doesn't kind of get into it enough. But it mentions, oh, she survived a school shooting, and they mention it here and there, and they show like quick flashes. But then they have her character pick up a gun and use a gun a lot at the end, and it bothers me immensely because it's just, I get there, her character, and she's fascinated by guns, and that makes sense. All that, this kind of makes sense. But like, you need more of a crossing a line, a bridge or something crosses the line, and it's one of those, even just a beat or two. I needed something more because it's really bothersome is the word that comes to mind, frankly. But it's very awkward having this character who had been a survivor of gun violence, and then she immediately gets a gun and starts to shooting Leatherface. And again, I understand he is this monster, and you got to get rid of him and stuff. It's a weird flex. There's a lot of weird flexes in this whole movie. I've read an editorial from the editor of Van Gogh, kind of taking umbrage with people getting up in arms about like, oh, this is a right-wing movie, or this is a left-wing movie, or this is that, and like how people just need to kind of go and watch movies. And I absolutely get it, and I absolutely agree. But there's weird, there's weird subtext, and you can't get away from that. And you can look past it. You can look past those kind of things. If I started watching the remake of, oh my gosh, man, it's oh god, they did a remake of the big Charles Bronson, revenge killer movies, and I just, oh my god, I can't think of it for the life of me. Holy cats, they did 4 of them over the years, and I watched that with Bruce Willis, and it was just, I couldn't watch more than a little bit because it was so gun crazy, and like, and it really is, it's what you bring to things. And I am at an age where I am bringing a lot of baggage personally and politically and blah blah blah, but it just didn't feel right. And the original is awkward, but it was more. It wasn't in the same way. Like, I didn't get the same vibe. It was awkwardness as those kind of movies, and the whole, like, man, rape was always the like ignition point for a lot of those, and then they needed to show how brutal the rape was because they had to really kind of get you invested. Why Charles Bronson has to do this. But yeah, I could not watch much more than a few minutes of it because it was kind of a disgusting movie, and it was weird because I'm not gonna say because I think I know who the director is, but I can't remember. But like, seems like it was a director I liked, and it's and it didn't work, and not for me at all. It was just gross, and I just get the feeling too, like there's subtext obviously here because there's the kind of redneck that has a gun and a lot of guns, and he confronts the hipsters, but the hipsters are kind of like crappy people, and they kind of want to show that like the city people are kind of disrespecting country folks because of like that they like guns and this and that, and they shouldn't because they're not. It's a weird thing. It's a weird, there's not enough given. Like, they try to kind of, it's one of those things where they try to give character to things that they don't put effort into, and it's funny too because it's not a long movie. It's a 90-minute movie, so it's not like this is this long movie and they just didn't nail it. They didn't bother. And the whole movie is kind of like that. Is that it's characters no one in the movie you care about really, other than maybe one person, and that's the survivor girl from the school shooting. And Leatherface, he's Leatherface, but like they have, they are so anxious to make him, because Leatherface was. I always kind of joke, like, for a series called the Chainsaw Massacre, there's not a lot of chainsaw massacring. And they are desperate to have him just going hog on people and just racking up a body count. And it just doesn't mean anything. None of it means anything. It feels like a lot of going through the motions and throwing blood around, and it's a bummer. because again, it's well made. It's not like there's terrible actors in it and terrible this. It's just it's poorly written. Like just no way to go around it, and you can turn your brain off and watch it. Because heaven knows I watch so much stuff that you have to turn your brain off. But that's not a compliment. When people say that, like, "Oh, just turn your brain off and go with it," that's saying that this has a lot of issues. You just kind of got to get over it and just go with it if you're going to have fun, and that's fine. But again, that's not. it's, you don't say that kind of a thing as a compliment. You don't say about someone, "Oh, they're a great person," if you can get past the fact that they're dumb. That's not a compliment. So I don't know. It seems like they're going to try to do because it did well. It seems like initially, so it sounds like they're going to try to do a new franchise with it. And of course, they whatever. It's like, oh, I've got ideas for the sequel, which you should always have ideas when in these kind of things because they may make them. And I guess we'll see what happens. Because it's funny when you think of series like this, one of the only ones that's been consistently and has done more than this. Because Evil Dead's been actually all of them have been good, but for long longevity, like the best one for is kind of the Child's Play series because he has evolved the series with the times and it kind of still reflects the times even going into the new show. Like it's crazy to think that, but it still works. And obviously it's because it's one of the people who created Chucky, so he gets what Chucky is and he kind of gets what you can do with it, and it's interesting. And it's fun. That's kind of what you have to do with these, and that's the problem is, you can ape the original, you can be a throwback movie and just like embrace movie making and movies of a time, because the My Bloody Valentine 3D kind of did that, as it kind of tried to be a modern version of an 80s movie, and it works. It works like that. Or you can kind of try to change with the times. And the new Chainsaw tries to kind of be a throwback that just puts on the clothes of our time. And again, I saw, like, oh well, yeah, no, this is still referencing this movie. This series has always kind of referenced the time. Yeah, I mean, most movies, if you have characters that like are real, like you're going to, that's just how that goes. But they were shallow hipsters in the new Chainsaw, and they weren't given depth. They were given. It was funny because it reminded me of Green Inferno, which is like I went to Green Inferno on a couple of these podcasts recently. Is in that it was just these kind of people who want to change the world for the better, and they just aren't necessarily the people that should do it because they're not great people in the end. And it's interesting. I just think that it's kind of a cliche is that we're all, a lot of folks will, as popular as, influencers and stuff are, a lot of us will roll our eyes. Oh, influencer. And that's what this movie's about, is influencers, basically, who want to change the world. And so you're going to immediately roll your eyes and like, yes, just kill them off. And that's not, you should always, to me, you should always be rooting for the heroes. You can like the villain, but if you're going and rooting for the villain solely, I think there's not a lot of life there. I don't know, and it doesn't make me right because they keep making movies of a type. So, but it chucks even those the collector, the two collector movies. I mean, the collector himself is great villainous character, but you still kind of pull for the heroes, and that's what you should do. Is you should always want a hero that even if they fail, even if they're flawed, even if they don't survive, that they put up a good fight and they were worthy. The villain is just the villain. Like there's not a lot to like you can try, but I don't know. I was bummed out for sure about the Chainsaw Massacre, though, as you can hear, as you've heard. So that's a bummer. I'm excited to see Scream 5. I think it's going to be cool. Like I'm excited. I'm excited because movies like this. I think there's stuff you can still say to a point. Like you've got to be careful with what you do with it. Like we don't need like Scream 10, like Scream 11. Like be careful with it because I know they're gonna make another one. But like my hope is that they're gonna let the legacy characters, or at least that they're gonna let Sydney, because I can't say because that they're gonna let Sydney kind of have a decent ending and kind of go off into the sunset and sunset that character, much like you hope with Laurie in Halloween. She deserves a good ending. Like there's a way you can end it with her dying, but it has to mean something. Sally Hardesty. Chainsaw Massacre, sorry. So this came to me, Sally Hardesty. And they don't do that for Sally Hardesty. And that's what's a bummer, is her character, is she deserved better. If to me, because you're serving the audience, but you're also serving the legacy. And it's not an easy road to hoe. And I'm not saying I could do it, or I could do it better, but if you can't do that, if you can't serve both those masters, you've got to re-examine why you're doing it in the first place. It's the whole, well, yeah, of course, I can put Amityville in space. But why? Well, because I can. Because there's an Amityville in space movie coming. And I don't know why. It's weird. People just sometimes make movies and make movies. And I guess you go and do you. Like, having seen a lot of movies and made a couple, I understand. But I'm just saying, you do you. So that's where I'm at. I've watched a lot of found footage movies in the last few weeks before I had to head back into the office. The wonders of Tubi I have found is that they just have hundreds of horror movies, and so I made a point to start buzzing through, watching just the random found footage movies. Which I still will always love that subgenre. But man, there's just finding those pieces of corn in the poo. It's not easy, friend. But yeah, I have a lot of reviews up on my page now. So if you're interested, there's a whole lot of them now. I hope you are well. I hope you're staying safe. This is a crazy world we find ourselves in the middle of. And it's definitely a scary time. And I get it. We all want COVID to be over. And in many ways it is. But there's work for us to do still, and we still got to keep being safe, and we still got to keep doing the right thing, because we can get past this and get back to as close to normalcy as possible, but we just can't be stupid about it. And we've got to stay strong against these crazies and tyrants that keep wanting to destroy this world. There's so much great stuff in this world. You being part of that, and I hopefully we can get past these dark times and get back to happier times. And much like the winter passes away to spring, we can all kind of come through this in the end and kind of get out in the sunshine and remember why we care. You take care. I will talk to you soon, my friend. Keep watching them weirdo movies, and I will too.